The Trek Geeks Podcast Network is proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Fansets is the home of amazing pin collectibles with over 400 officially licensed Star Trek pins and new releases every month.
Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your next order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character.
Basement offices, Q in the FBI, and unfinished mind melds. This week, we continue down an interesting path that will hopefully lead us back to this prime universe that we think we're all supposed to be heading towards. So why don't you come and join us on our stroll? My name is Mike Bovia, and this is Discovering Trek Picard. Thanks for joining us on Discovering Trek, the Star Trek Universe Companion, presented by Fansets. This week's episode continues to show us the evolution of Jurati as the Borg Queen and the mental slip and slide that Q is on. And we're 8 episodes into Discovering Trek, and it wouldn't be a stretch to say that some of us are probably right behind Q on the slip and slide. That is, if we weren't on it before him. So I figure with our introductions, we'll start with the most stable of our group, and that's Subrina. At least I like to think she's the most stable of the group, although our discussions before we started recording might say something different. How are you, Subrina?
I'm just fine, Mike. Thanks for having me here. Yes, I am stable, ready and able and stable.
Well, that's good because we need some kind of balance on this show. So the only thing that sends our next guest down that mental slip and slide is when his predictions are stolen on a weekly basis. Mike, welcome back, as you are here every week. We love we love the battles between you and Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I have to up my game every week, and I have some good ones for this week. So we'll have to see what Jamie brings this week to the ball game.
Last week you brought it. I mean, you were on your A game with last week, so we're looking forward to what you got this week. And then finally, the guy who unfortunately is the craziest, but there's a caveat to that because he is on 2 podcasts with yours truly, Mr. Jamie Rogers. Jamie, well, you know what? Here's another caveat to that. He's up at night considering where he's going to put all of his autographs, so that could lend something to his state of mind, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. I've got scratch paper all over the place, graphing paper, all sorts of things. These are big decisions, how I'm going to arrange these autographs on this wall. So my OCD is, needs to be reined in.
Now, see, the biggest decision I'm thinking is what you're going to do if Alex Kurtzman decides to throw another show into the ring. Because if I remember correctly, we had this discussion not long ago where you said, no, I can't do it. I'm not getting any of the Picard characters. I just can't do it. I don't have the space. And where are we now? You're getting Picard characters.
Hence why I had to buy 4 cases of command strips because I had to figure out a way to reincorporate all these new characters. So they can't keep me away.
Yeah. All right. So, Jamie, why don't you let us know where we can all be found on social media?
If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can find us at Discovering Trek, or you can join the conversation on Camp Kittimer. Answer a few simple questions, and our admins Haley, Jackie, and Fark will let you in.
This is a reminder that this episode of Discovering Trek provides spoilers for the Picard episode Mercy. If you have not watched yet, head over to Paramount Plus and watch the episode and then head back. Failure to do so leaves you open to spoilers. Episode 208 of Star Trek Picard, Mercy, aired April 21st, 2022. It was written by Cindy Appel and Kirsten Beyer and directed by Joe Menendez. With time running out before the Europa mission, Picard and Guinan must free themselves from FBI custody. Seven and Raffi come face to face with Jurati and the horror of what she's become. So with those things in mind, we'll talk to our esteemed round table. We'll start with Mike, since I know he's going to bring some positivity to the table tonight. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What are your thoughts as far as that goes, Mike?
I give this episode 2 thumbs up, and I think it is very evident that Kristen Beyer is part of the writing for this episode. It is just a well-crafted scene by scene, the way things are folded into one another. I think it all works really well, and I know she co-wrote the episode, but it also reminded me that this is a chapter in a book. And so I think that we are kind of looking at episodes sometimes as this big flashy thing, like this one and done or a movie level, which often these are, Discovery is often a movie level, like production value and everything. So it may feel like that, but I think this is a great reminder that this is a chapter in the book of Picard. And we are in, the second part of this and episode 8, and it feels like time is running out, but we do have a whole nother book yet to come, or a whole nother act yet to come. And I know we were all kind of hoping for some sort of wrap up to this, but I think we're moving more and more towards a best of both worlds type finale for season 2. So I'm a little disappointed by that, and also excited by that. I guess I'm kind of in both camps, but I think it's a great episode. A lot of great moments in this. Some really, highlighting some phenomenal acting, and some really standout one-on-one or one-on-two conversations. And you know what? I am interested in seeing an 80s sitcom with Vulcans and what they're doing in the 1980s. So maybe there's a new comedy idea that Alex is kind of floating out there.
Well, they have to stay home because Who's the Boss is on. So,
Fair. Yeah. Perfect Strangers, the Vulcan edition. I don't know, something like that. But
with some buddies.
Yeah, there we go. So other than that, that's it's kind of funny that they're there, and we don't get an explanation or anything like that, but I mean, it was another piece of the puzzle, and I think that what happens because of all of that is important in the end. So and I know we'll get into it more with key points in a little bit, but I enjoyed this episode. I've watched it twice, and just reveled in the acting, and also the music at some parts of it was really good this week. So definitely enjoyed it.
Agreed on that. Subrina, what about you? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I got 1 thumbs up, definitely. It was something. At least we got somewhere with this. So I was happy that it's moving along, although even though we're out of the basement, we were stuck in the interrogation room, but all right, fine. I really love the young Guinan. I could just watch her all day long, and I totally loved that. I loved that part of the interrogation. I did love the dialogue that they were all having, all 3 actors. It was really great. And as you were saying, Mike, I heard some music that was really making my heart sing. Raffi is like a shrew in this season. I mean, she's just yelling at everybody. That woman, she needs some Marvin Gaye, some sexual healing or something. She needs to do something, talking about everything and you're not doing anything. And then I loved Rios and Teresa. I'm telling you, that little scene they had was one of the most romantic scenes I have seen in Star Trek. Tell me something I would only find out after I'd known you for 10 years. That somebody lived that. That was some real stuff. I don't know which one of those women actually had that conversation with their significant other, but that sounded very real. And the other thing I really, I love the Spanish speaking in that. I just finally, Rios got to speak in Spanish, and I was just totally all there for it. And I did love that Elnor, finally, we see Elnor. So that made my heart happy too. So those were my big things.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit with this episode as to whether to go thumbs up or thumbs down, because there's a lot of things that I really like about this episode. But I feel like this Jurati as the Borg Queen thing is it's just dragging out. Some of and it feels like that is like this A story that's just kind of hanging there. Whereas I think some of these other stories that would be considered a B story should be elevated above that. And the Jurati thing should just be like a background thing. We know she's the queen. We know what she's trying to do. So I think for me, I'm going to say thumbs up, but just barely, because there are a lot of the same things, Mike and Subrina, that you talked about. I feel the same way about, I thought it was funny how with that, tell me, we've been married for 10 years, but we're starting to grow apart, and you're thinking about cheating on me. And he goes, and this is what you consider romantic? That was good. I appreciated that. That was a lot of fun. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you were saying about Raffi, because believe it or not, I think she actually ties into Dr. Soong in this episode a little bit. So we'll see where that goes. But those are my thoughts. Thumbs up, just barely. I'm not blown away by it, but I didn't hate it either. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Where is Jamie's thumb going?
Well, I mean, like you, I kind of really toiled with how I felt about this episode. I'm going to go thumbs down on it. I'm just...
This is now 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I know.
Shooting them down.
I'm just struggling with where the season's going right now for me personally. And I have to preface it by saying there are things that I really liked about this episode. But I struggle with the fact of I feel like things aren't getting tied up at all. Like there's just so many loose ends, and every week where I think we're going to, start tying certain things up, we start raising more questions, like these Vulcans now. Okay. We're on episode 8 of season 2, and it's
we're just getting this. Yep.
Yeah. We're going to introduce Vulcans into the mix, and how they're affecting the timeline and things like that. And, like I just said, there are things that I really like about this episode. I think, Jurati is once again, hitting it out of the park. Teresa and Rios, their dynamic, their relationship is great. Still don't understand why she's on the ship. So I'm gonna say that, yeah, I'm just struggling with it. I mean, like I said, there are things I like about it. I like the conversation that we saw between Elnor and Raffi too, because I think it really kind of informs our Raffi character as to why she is really hell-bent on fixing this timeline. Basically because she's the one responsible for Elnor, making the decision to go into the academy early. So things like that. Like I said, there were some high points, but overall, I can't get around this episode and embrace it. So it's a thumbs down for me.
Please specify how you would like to proceed, sir.
Okay, so key points that stuck out to all of us from this episode. And, this is where we're able to get into a little bit more detail on stuff. So Subrina, why don't you jump into the fold first here?
Okay, well, my whole real problem with this is that I love Cristobal. That is my guy. He's the captain of the Stargate. He's the captain of La Serena. And now he's acting like a fool. He needs to get back on mission. It's just, ever since he hit his head, he's been just like crazy. He's got arrested, and then he's, he doesn't know how to use the thing, and he's bringing kids on board. He's eating cake. I am just like, oh my God, what is he doing? So I'm hoping that I am trusting in the writers that they're going to bring him back as the badass I know he can be. Give him back the cigar, give him whatever he needs, but he needs to get back on the horse and let's go. Stop talking with the kid. But you figure out what's going on. I love this whole love theme thing. I really do. But and I don't know where that's going. I don't even understand why that's in there, because I don't want this to be some, wipe your memory out thing at the end, and I'll save that for later. But so that one's bothering me. And then the other thing that really bothers me is if you're going to say that Raffi and Seven are the main event, as Raffi's trying to say they are, I think it's one of the least romantic pairings I've ever seen. I mean, these people have just had like a fingertip touch. So, don't even try to tell me you're the main event, because right now you ain't doing smack. So it is like that. And then the other thing that's really getting on my nerves, and I just want to say, why they always got to pull a sister up by her neck and hold her up in the sky? This is like a new move for Star Trek. Like they did it twice to Burnham, where somebody had her by the throat and put her up.
Wow.
Controlled it to her. Arium did it to her, and then now they did it to Raffi. I'm like, you know what? I'm really getting a little sick of this move. You need to stop messing with the sisters with this move. What is this? It just really is a very disturbing move for me to have somebody grab by that neck like that and then pick you up and let you dangle. I'm like, all right. You do this one more time to a sister, I'm gonna have some words. And then the other thing that got me was, I like Seven in this. I'm fascinated by Seven struggling with not being Borg and being human. I think that is one of the most interesting things in this whole week, where you're talking about here's a childhood trauma, that somebody is stuck in a childhood trauma, and we really haven't examined this one that much. But I love her trying to be Borg without the implants, and that was really great. So those are my things. Very personal things, but I got a problem with that move.
Sabrina, I kind of want to agree with you on the Seven and Raffi thing. I mean, obviously this was something, this relationship was kind of teased at the end of season 1, and but it's like there's just that it's almost like I've seen in other sort of movies or shows where you have these two characters and you want to see them get together and things like that, but it's like I don't feel like the writers are doing a good enough job of selling that we want to see these two characters together.
Yeah,
like I feel like it's a complete missed opportunity with and I think they have a great dynamic together, but I just feel like their scenes together are just, they're okay. They're just not, they're not old. They're not old.
They seem like they've been together for 10 years and they're thinking of sleeping with somebody else.
Yeah. So let me jump in here a second. So one of the things that they talked about, I think I brought this up on another episode, during the junket, the question was asked of Michelle and Jerry, are we going to see a continuation of this relationship of Seven and Raffi? And they said, you will, but not in the traditional sense of like the romanticism, the kissy, the huggy, that kind of stuff. And it was played off by the writers as it's not the circumstances for something like that. And I can agree to an extent. You don't want to see this whole romantical side of things when they're fighting for their lives. But we're not even getting like an ancillary relationship either. Like you said, Subrina, it's like they are the old married couple that's bickering all the time. and they stay married because that's what people do.
Right.
And I feel like too that it's weird because I feel like they almost have amnesia week to week. It feels like one week Seven's really focused on the mission and Raffi's distracted, and then like the next week it's like Raffi's all in on the mission and Seven's distracted. It's like they're forgetting week to week how these characters are and where they're at. And like this episode, I kind of felt like Seven was on her game and knew what she was doing, and Raffi was like kind of all over the place in another world. And I don't know. It's just, I just feel like it's not being executed to the best of the writer's ability here.
No, I'm like, you know what? Just give it up. These two are not a couple, and just make them best friends, make them battle buddies. I'm good with that. But stop with I'm the main event. This is the love of my life. Oh, please, no, you're not.
Yeah, I think I struggle with that comment, but I see how the two of them relate to one another, and I see the relationship. I see the caring for one another, even though they're bickering. I feel the connection between the two of them. And I think that one of the things that we forget because we're watching this weekly is that this is only, again, we're talking about in the span of 3 days. So
yeah, it's a snapshot. You're right.
Yeah, we forget though that a day and a half or 2 days ago, she saw Elnor killed. So she's still, Raffi, for instance, is still in the throes of grief. And now she's having memories of, the conversation with Seven sparks this memory that she is manipulative. And that all brings up the whole story of how Elnor is sort of guilted into going to Starfleet Academy early when he's actually called back to his homeworld and they need his help for something. So there's that. Also, the other piece of this is that I've listened to, and I don't know if all of you have listened to the audiobook about them, and they're the main, they're the main focus of it. So it kind of covers that time in between season 1 and season 2, and gives a little bit more context to their relationship. So, I mean, I enjoy their dynamic. I think that there's a lot emotionally going on, and Raffi is prone to alcoholism and fighting grief, and she doesn't have the tools. There's no counselor on board, so there's no, and she's not drinking, so how she might have coped with it before is no longer an issue. So she's, navigating that. And Seven and I thought this episode really highlighted it. Seven is dealing with the fact that she doesn't have the implants and what it's like to be fully human. So she's not known this for 40 odd years or whatever. She was 6 or 7 when she was assimilated. So she's also struggling in a different way. So I give them a lot of credit that there's a closeness to one another. But also, they're both taking different career directions right now. So it's sort of before all of this happened, it's sort of a long distance relationship, or we're figuring it out as we kind of go along when we see each other. So it's really a complex relationship that I kind of find, I think that we see Rios and Teresa, and that seems very natural, and that seems very, I don't know, perfect is not the right word, but just meant to be, and just like a good balance between the two of them. And this is just a different type of relationship. This is two career professionals who are in different phases of their career trying to figure out how they can work in a relationship. And then all of this stuff happens. And now we're dealing with grief, and we're dealing with loss of, a new identity almost without the implants. So I just feel like if you're watching this and you take a step back and just kind of put that all in your head, you can kind of see the relationship and go with it. My problem with the whole scene with them and Jurati, I didn't even pick up, and I'm sorry that I didn't, Subrina, on the choking piece, a white woman choking a person of color. But I also thought that was a very I don't know. Raffi and Seven are badasses, and they, to be so easily pushed aside by Jurati in this. I mean, Jurati is still, the Queen is still becoming strong. She's not, she's just ingested a bunch of batteries and has all that metal running through her system or whatnot. But come on, like Raffi was slow on the take with the gun, with her phaser, and Seven was completely taken off guard. Like, I get it. There's a lot going on, and everything I just said is part of the context.
Not Borg anymore.
It's Human 7. Yep.
Yeah,
Human 7 can't do shit.
So I guess that's true. But I just thought that they were bested way too easily.
Yeah,
and I felt like there should have been a little bit more of a fight that would have been worthy of the three of them.
Because they were hopping about all the personal crap. Get on this. Yaddy.
Well, that kind of takes me back to what I was saying before, how it seems like the driving force of this story for the last 3 episodes has been Agnes and her transformation into the Borg Queen. Like, yeah, we get it. She assimilated her. That was 3 episodes ago. We could be at this point already, but we're not. So let's please get it moving.
I miss Annie in the Borg body. And where's the Borg body anyway? She's just in the cooler or something.
Yeah, it's in the cooler.
Right. Where the kid is running around. Around like unsupervised. Thank you.
Yep.
Borg bodies and dead bodies, and Rios just letting the kid run around. Like, what is wrong?
So I mean, going back to your comment about Rios, though, I think that this is someone who's felt a connection with Teresa and is making decisions based upon feeling in love, and almost like a teenage kind of love, but a little bit more mature than that, where he's making decisions that are sort of in that realm of being a teenager. But he was on the Ready Room, and he's enjoying exploring this part of his character. And he said, this sort of relationship was never part of, his past, as in the character's past.
Right.
So this is a new thing for him. And so, yeah, I do agree. Like, yes, he's way off book here, way off mission, but he did bang his head. So there's that.
He did bang his head.
But also, it's also almost, I don't know. It's almost a time to reevaluate.
I'm gonna trust. Yeah. I gotta bring my boy back, because he can't be this. He can't be doing this to me.
And it is a welcome distraction, I'll say, the byplay between the two of them, considering everything else that's going on. And Mike, I gotta say, how you describe the Raffi and Seven relationship is the reason why we do a roundtable, because like it seems like the 3 of us almost couldn't see the forest for the trees, and you pulled something different out of there, which is great. And I can see everything that you're saying too, and especially the point that you made about the audiobook. Because that was where they said that's where you're getting the romantical side of Seven and Raffi. The one thing I'll say is right now, the way they're portraying the two of them, it's not, I think, what I myself, and I think a lot of fans expected from the two of them, even knowing that we're not going to get the lovey-dovey stuff, but we're still just kind of not getting what we thought we might have been signing up for based off of the time between the last episode of season 1 and where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex relationship, but go ahead, Subrina.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for the lovey-dovey stuff either all the time, but I'm not feeling. I didn't read the audiobook, so I'm looking for it in the show. So I'm not getting it that these two have some basis for whatever's going on, other than you telling me that this is the main event, because they don't seem like that to me, even in their anger and whatever. Because you know what? One of the themes of this whole franchise this season is people dealing with their trauma and still being the shit. You know, Picard was back in the day. You know, these people have had the issue. Even Jurati had her whatever. You know, you see Tilly's had her problems. Everybody has a childhood trauma in Star Trek, but they execute. And so when you come to this and we see the fumble and bumble and we're like, yeah, I know you got some stuff you got to work through, but hey, listen, we are on mission. That's why you're Starfleet. That's why we're aboard her. So let's get going, people. Let's get it going. It's episode 8. I don't really give a hoo-ha about whatever's going on. Find the queen and let's get to stepping. Oh, I'd be an awful captain.
You'd be a good first officer, though.
Hello.
You're giving me Carol Freeman vibes in that episode where she like was all on top of everybody. You know, like everyone had a certain amount of minutes to finish their work, and they had the next task. Yeah. I can't think of the episode name, but
I'm channeling a senior director of the tax department just a few days after tax season. That's what it's just the remnants of that. Let's go, people.
So tax accountants, do they factor in buffer time as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we invented it.
So one last thing, kind of coming off of what we were saying with the comparison of Rios and Teresa to Raffi and Seven. I like what you were saying, Mike, about how Rios has never had this before. And we're kind of exploring that development of his character in this way. But at the same time, Seven hasn't had this before. I'd love to see that explored in her character as well. Now, you know, the other thing that doesn't count. That's garbage. That's just plain garbage. We're forgetting that ever happened. But, you know, also to your point, it's a chapter in a book and, you know, there's only so much you can do in each chapter. I just feel like they should have been sprinkling some pieces along during this. But I mean, that's as a wise person once said, that's all I got to say about that.
I think this whole season will make better sense to everyone, you know, thinking about these things when you get to watch it all the way through. Yeah. And you can kind of see that this is it. It feels like it's taking a long time for Jurati to become the Borg Queen, you know, but again, we're talking about a 3-day window here, you know, 72 hours that this is all happening in, and we're watching it over 10 weeks. So, or 8 weeks, whatever, you know, whenever they got back to that timeline. And so but I can see how it's hard and it gets frustrating because you know, when Johnson and I talk about this on Deep Space Pride, we consider this whole you know, going off to the FBI office being like a side quest, all these side quests when you really want to get to the mission at hand. And there does seem to feel like there's a lot of side quests in this season of Picard where the crew is, and I think actually, you know, they said it, Jerry and, why can't I think of Christopher, Chris's
Santiago
name?
Cabrera.
Santiago. Yeah. They said, you know, that, you know, this episode or this one coming up is the first time where the crew is all back together again, almost, you know, so they've all been on these separate side missions. So, you know, that's, I don't know. My prediction is still sticking for, well, I don't know if it's mine or Jamie's. It's hard to tell which way that goes now. But anyway, I've got some more stuff on that later on. But can we talk a little bit about what we've learned about Guinan and Q in all of this?
Oh yeah.
I love. Please talk about
should we take a second since we've all been oozing positivity and let Jamie rain on the parade?
Sure, let's do it. Jamie, tell us what's wrong with the world today.
Here we go. Well, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. I think pacing in this episode is definitely a problem for me. You guys talk about the whole Borg Queen thing kind of dragging on. I feel like that's obviously the main story here, and it's just taking way too long to develop. And how hard is it to find her too? I think like they've kind of made it where it's like, where is she? I mean, they have all this technology, they can't find where she is, but
she's wearing a bright friggin' red dress too.
Well, but it's just, I mean, you can program your tricorders to find anything, and you're telling me you can't find Borg components in Los Angeles? I don't know. But I have to say the whole FBI investigation thing, I was disappointed of how it turned out. I watched the last episode and I was like, wow, we got this great cliffhanger of how is Picard and Guinan going to get out of this? And I'm thinking along the lines of like, you got FBI agents who saw transporter technology. You got them identifying them as breaking into the gala. You got them identifying that Rios broke out of the ICE detention center. So I'm kind of like thinking, wow, this is going to be a great mystery for Picard to figure out how to get out of. And then we watched this episode and I was just like, that's it. That's where we're at. To me, that FBI thing was kind of like a distraction from the main story that's going along. I mean, we have all these plot threads that we're trying to figure out. What are Q's plans? How are Picard and the crew going to save the future? Where's Adam Soong's connection? All this. And I really don't feel we advanced the plot at all in any of those areas.
We've barely seen John Delancey in this episode.
Yeah. And then, we established that there's this major trauma, which once again, I don't know what that has to do with the future, but we established this major trauma in the previous episode. We don't talk about it. We stopped there. And then I look at two phenomenal actresses that we've had in recent episodes, the girl who played Renee Picard, the girl who played, Talon, Orla Brady. They're not in the episode. Once again, two major components to this plot. And we're just like, what is going on with Renee Picard? Where is she? What's going on? What's her emotional state? Is she in quarantine? We don't know.
Right. And somebody tried to hit her with a car and then that's a laugh. But she knew the car was aiming at her. And this old guy gets in front of it. And then it was just like, okay, bye, Renee.
Well, that's my point. And this episode does establish that her going on this Europa mission, basically she comes up with the technology that's going to, mess up all of Adam Soong's work, disavow it or, discredit it or whatever happens. Where is she? Like, it just bothers me.
It's going to render his work obsolete.
Yeah, renders work. That was the word I'm looking for. But I just struggle with the pacing of this episode. Some cool things that I kind of picked out. I hate to go all biblical, on this podcast, but when Q was tempting Corey with the blue magic pill water that you like to say, Subrina, I kind of feel like I'm in the book of Genesis where Satan is tempting Eve. I kind of made that connection of like Satan tempting Eve. And
wow.
It's interesting that, he puts on the note freedom. And then that was the same thing that Satan was trying to sell Adam and Eve. Freedom, right? You're going to be like God. You can make decisions. You're going to know right and wrong. And I almost feel like it's the same exact thing that he's portraying Satan in this. And here, take this pill. You're going to be able to do whatever you want. You're not going to need your father anymore. You're not going to need his guidance. Mm-hmm. You're not going to need him to tell you what's right and wrong. And now where does she go from here? Because she walked away from him. She walked away. So what havoc is she going to render to the rest of this story? Right? She's got all this knowledge now, the knowledge of right and wrong and who she is and that she's not human. What's going to happen with her? Which is once again, another plot thread that's being introduced that I don't know whether they're going to wrap it up at the end of the season.
Mike, he might have just surpassed you this week with that one. I mean,
that was good, Jamie.
That's almost a mic drop there.
Yeah, that was yeah. I mean, it's Sunday night. We're getting Preacher Jamie with us right now. So
deep thoughts with Jamie Rogers.
Eating the fruit.
I do think that what you point out here, Jamie, is valid. I think that we don't know what the motivation is with Q here, because it's creating this chaos in Adam Soong that is actually the problem that, you know, with Renee and him, that the Borg Queen now has to explain to him. So it's weird that it feels like he's moving chess pieces, but he's like not playing to win anymore. He's just he's almost like Data when he played that guy with the game
Stratagem.
Yeah,
Stratagema. That's what it was.
And he plays to Data plays to what is it, to
not lose. He plays to not
lose. Yeah, he basically doesn't play to win. He plays to just stalemate or whatever.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what Q is doing right now, is all of these different moves are just playing to stalemate. They're not really, especially with Corey. I don't get this whole Corey and Adam Soong piece at all. Other than, Jurati did reaffirm kind of that mission that he needs to take, that Soong needs to take out Renee. So we at least got the confirmation that Renee is sort of the pinnacle of this timepiece, which we're kind of unsure. I was kind of unsure about, because we had this whole Corey Adam Soong storyline, and then we had the Renee Picard storyline, and like which one of these is actually the tipping point. And I guess they sort of are together, but now Jurati / the Borg Queen is basically saying that he still needs to do that. He still needs to stop that from happening in order to save his life. So, or to save his future, which I thought was kind of interesting. But, I'm just still really curious what Q's motives are here. And at least with that part of the story, I think that the Q and Guinan piece is very interesting, and I've got definitive thoughts about that.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of wondering if this whole thing. So Guinan made the comment that it seems like Q is crazy. I'm kind of wondering if this craziness is affecting how he's acting and like how he's carrying out his plot, so to speak. And I'm also wondering if this dying that he's going through, the end of his immortality, if this was a sentence that was passed on to him by the continuum, and the only way he can get out of it is for Picard to prove once again what humanity can do. And so Q is throwing them into this scenario because he made the comment, the trap is immaterial. It's the escape that has meaning, regarding them ending up back there in the past. So I don't know. I am thoroughly confused as to where he's going with all of this. That's just kind of me, taking the pieces of broken glass and trying to make a new portrait with it.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, a lot of your points, Mike, that'll make a lot of sense. But it's like, it seems like I can't tell whether he's working against Picard or he's working to help him.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like he's doing moves and then he's almost doing like a counter move to what he had done. He's like almost undoing what he does. And it's like, like he was the one that commissioned Adam Soong to kill Renee, but then at the other time he's like, well, I'm trying to help Picard. It's like, it's hard to really kind of figure out. And you wonder if, it's because of some of the other things that are going on, or the fact that he's dying, but I'm confused. I'm thoroughly confused as I'm watching it and, wondering where we're going to go. And yeah, like I said, this episode confused me even more because I really think there was moments where he was saying that he was like in support of Picard. I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to do this. And, he came here on his own and I'm trying to help him. And I don't know. It's just, I'm confused.
It's like he's schizophrenic or something. Like he's had some mental break or something like this.
It's almost like it's two people. It's almost like it's like a split.
Yeah.
It's almost like
we said that in the beginning that there were two Qs. We said that.
We did. Yeah, we did talk about the possibility of having a younger Q, a younger version of him back in time.
We said, why was this Q in the original first episode? It seemed like he was for Picard, and then the Q in this scenario is against him. And I said, look, they look like there's two Qs, but we don't know what is going on. And I'll save my thing for the predictions, but I had one prediction right. I did say that little boy was not Picard. I told you all that.
You did.
Oh,
I said that is not Picard. I got my Romulans and my Vulcans mixed up, but who knew they were back there at that time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said that back when we were just talking about the trailer too.
I said that was not Picard.
Yeah. So, Mike, did you still have something that you wanted to talk about with Q and Guinan?
I mean, I did really just enjoy their encounter, and how Guinan was sort of piecing things together. Like basically told us, because she is who she is. She told us that he's dying, which is something that he can't even say out loud necessarily. So I have some thoughts about where that's going to lead later on, but I just really loved the dynamic, and that he had to pretend to be an FBI, which is also I don't know how he's able to be a psychologist or a therapist, go from place to place. Oh, and the other thing he did was suddenly he made this box of the blue liquid appear at the door at the very moment. So that's the other piece that's confusing, because
he doesn't have powers.
He's got some powers, but he doesn't have all of them. He couldn't vaporize Guinan, but he can make the box show up.
It's just really weird. It's inconsistent. So I think that also threw me off when she was going through the program and he said all of a sudden the box was there. It just didn't make any sense. And then you see him later on and he walks into the cell with Guinan and he basically tells her, I had to walk here, So I'm like, what is going on with him? And what is he, the master of disguise now? He can put on an FBI jacket and just walk in so it's just really confusing what powers he has and what powers he doesn't have, and whether there's more than one of him. I don't, it's just, it just feels I feel schizophrenic trying to even unpack this. But I love, Ito does such an amazing job playing Guinan. I mean, it's just, I was sort of sad that they were leaving the bar and leaving her behind. I really wanted her to come along with them. Obviously, that temporal mechanics and all that aside, but she's so amazing, and so it's I feel like we might have seen the end of that piece of the adventure. So
she still has to end up in the Nexus in 300 years, or 200 years.
That's true. She has to end up on the Enterprise B. Right?
I do too.
Yep. And I tell you, I watched the Ready Room with her, and it was so funny because in my notes for the show, I wrote down those camel suede boots. I wanted those boots. And she said she felt like she knew who her character was when she slipped on those boots. And when she was sitting there in the interrogation chair and she had her feet up with the boots, I was like, oh, that's my girl right there. But one thing I want to say about this, and I think this is really funny because a lot of the Voyager people are going absolutely crazy because the person that played Agent Wells, they were hoping there was going to be this connection to relativity, which they admitted they just totally dropped the ball on that. I mean, I'm sure this actor came in and everything was all set in stone, and by the time he got there, he's like, well, I already did this time thing with Seven way back, and they were like, yeah, whatever. I said, so now I think the Voyager people understand how DS9 people feel about the Leah Brahms debacle and how they dropped the ball on that one. I said, she is now that Wells is your Leah Brahms. Because we're still mad that you didn't get that this was supposed to be Daystrom's granddaughter and you just wrote it because you miscast. You just like screwed the whole thing up. So I feel bad for the Voyager people. I'm very sorry that Agent Wells is not really the guy from Relativity, but they could have so easily just give me another line, just write any little thing to bring that together. It would have been perfect.
Can we actually talk about the Agent Wells thing? Because I think it's another interesting, this plot, the subplot of trauma, childhood trauma. Obviously, we just saw it with with Picard. Obviously, we're kind of seeing. I want to kind of make a comparison. Obviously, I kind of struggled with how quickly Jean-Luc Picard was able to convince Rene Picard to go on this mission, right? With that short period of time that they were together. But I kind of feel very similar to this situation that, you got this Agent Wells who's basically spent an entire lifetime traumatized by this alien encounter where he doesn't understand it. It's driven his career, his life. And then he spends, a few minutes with Captain Picard and Patrick Stewart. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can leave my job. I'm good. I have peace now. I'm good.
Oh, he's a Vulcan. Oh, that's
he's
what
a Vulcan.
Like, what?
They were doing a mind melt.
That explains it all.
It explains it all. Right. This is great. And I just got fired. It's okay. I'm good.
Totally made no sense.
You're
free to go.
Yeah.
There were pictures.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, I feel like they're really trying to harp on this childhood trauma and make this like a running theme, but they're tying it up too quickly. Yeah, they're tying it up way too quickly, and it's becoming not believable. And it's taking me out of the moment completely. When I see stuff like that, I think it was interesting if they could have explored it more, but once again, they just try to wrap it up really quick and kind of leave us wanting more.
Well,
or even bring him to the La Serena too. Let Agent Wells
there you go.
Too. Have him break them out. Have him be the one to get rid of the photos, to get rid of everything, and go with them. Because you know what? Tell me who these Vulcans are because I gotta know. But no, we just it's like, oh, okay, I'm going home. I got my mug and I'm out of here.
So I gotta say, I did like a couple pieces that went along with this whole thing. So you've said a couple of times, Subrina, where'd the Vulcans come from? So somebody pointed out this week on Twitter, and I because I never write stuff down, I don't remember who it was. So if you said it, here's your credit. They mentioned that there was like this throwaway line at the end of Carbon Creek that there would be another survey mission going to Earth in 20 to 30 years. So, I mean, that hits right at the 80s timeline for Wells, I guess. And then the other thing was what Picard said to him about he wasn't trying to hurt you. He was trying to mind meld with you so you would forget what you saw. And it didn't click with me right away, but it brought me back to TOS and Requiem for Methuselah, right? where Spock did the mind meld on Kirk to forget about Raina Kopic and the love that he had for her before she died. So.
And even didn't Beverly do it when they were discovered one time?
Yeah,
when, they were observing.
That was just a medical procedure, though, not a mind meld.
Exactly.
So
not a mind. No, you got to use your human technology. So she even erased the mind. They didn't want these people to know that they had been observing them, and Starfleet observed people for years or whatever before they actually made first contact. So this whole thing with the Vulcan being there didn't mean it was fine.
Right.
I mean, I get that they would be there, but it was just,
Yeah, I just thought that was a cool point that someone brought out about that throwaway line at the end of Carbon Creek. I didn't pick up on that.
No,
that's really helpful to hear. That makes things a lot more sensical now. But to Jamie's point, I actually didn't feel like this was a picture of childhood trauma necessarily. I mean, I felt like it was an experience in childhood that sort of drove him, and there were a lot of parallels for me between him and Mulder from X-Files. You know, this kind of experience as a child that makes you go and look for these extraordinary things, and so he's kind of like one of those, you know, weird kids. I mean, we're all weird kids because, you know, or at least we were growing up, probably, if we like this stuff. So, you know, I feel like he's just that's the situation with him, and what comes out of it is really like what Guinan says to him at the door as he's leaving. Like, if you go back and just listen to that last few seconds, like those last 30 to 60 seconds of their interaction, basically she and I believe in this just in life in general, you know, things move you in certain directions without you really even knowing it. And the way that Guinan kind of explains it is you needed that happened to you, and that caused all these things in your life to happen to bring you to this point to set us free, essentially. And, you know, for me, just the way that I think about life in general, I think that we're all like, everything that's ever happened to me personally has pushed me or nudged me in a certain direction. And that course, you know, the course of my whole life has been, you know, planned, or what, you know, not necessarily planned, but it's just, it comes out in the end of where you're supposed to be, and all those little things push you along the way. And so I thought that was really powerful for Guinan to say that to him. And I think, you know, if someone said that to me, I think I would, you know, I can't say for certain, but I think, you know, I would, after a time, realize that, yeah, that's kind of the case. Maybe that was the whole point of everything that's happened to me, or all these things that have happened to me. It, you know, gave me this push. And, you know, in the end, he does get to believe, you know, in extra, like, have proof, quote unquote proof, that there are extraterrestrials. And so he's sort of vindicated. And so he can sort of put that to rest and kind of move forward in whatever the next phase of his life is. So
no, I think he was definitely a traumatized kid, though, because he thought that man was trying to kill him.
Well, that's, you know, I really respect your point, Mike, but like, when I watched the sequence, to me, it was like they did it in the same style that they uncovered the Picard trauma. Like they really dramatized it like it was a major trauma in this guy's life, you know, and that's where I'm struggling to say that it's not a trauma. Yeah, to me, it was a trauma for him. And, you know, and like, you know, I'm kind of getting into my, you know, my thoughts on the episode and the messages, but, you know, I feel like this whole theme of mercy, you know, this episode titled Mercy, is Picard releasing this guy from this trauma that's going on in his life. You know, Picard just had his major trauma released from him in the previous episode, Monsters. Now he's turning around and he's releasing the major traumas from these other people's lives, because now he's basically like, he feels empowered to do that now.
I agree with that, definitely. And I think Guinan had a part in that too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I wasn't saying that that he didn't experience, or if I did, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that I just didn't see it as childhood trauma in that sequence, but I can see how you, like, others would. And now that you've explained it, that sort of makes more sense to me. But when I was watching it, I didn't feel like he was a traumatized person. And maybe because I was just paying attention to the other characters a little bit more and didn't really think too deeply about Agent Wells. But
if two Vulcans chased me in the dark and I was looking for my dog and then came at my head, I would have been traumatized and then disappeared.
For sure,
I would have been out of my mind.
I mean, you wonder kind of like what his motivation was with the interrogation. It was more about like, I need somebody to explain what happened to me, as opposed to I'm representing the FBI or I'm representing whatever organization, you know, Area
representing
51.
Queens. I was raised out in Brooklyn.
Yeah, whatever. Right. It just seemed like his mission was not, you know, something that was government sanctioned. It was more of a personal thing. Like, okay, I caught you guys doing all these things, but that's not important. What's important is what happened to me when I was a kid? You need to kind of explain that to me because it's deeply affecting my life. And then they were able to kind of like shift it, like I said, because anyone else would have blown this up way out of proportion and we'd be having major reparations to the timeline that they'd be having to fix.
He would have rang the bell and told everybody, they're back. He didn't. He went to put him in the basement and was like, yo, you gotta tell me something.
Yeah, explain to me why. Like, this is what I've been looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, he was already the crazy man in the office. He was already the crazy man in the office. So he said, I can't say anything until I know for sure that you people are aliens. But and he did lose his job. He said it one more time.
Well, I thought he was vindicated too there when Guinan does kind of let him know, hey, my species. And you can kind of see, you could see that look in his eye like, hey, I was right.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a problem with the end of the episode where, Jurati shows up to Adam Soong and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, the scene ends and you come back and there's like a bunch of like assassin troops all of a sudden.
Right.
That just show up.
Because the only thing that he said was, I can get us into mission control.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's got special forces troops. Now, this does go back to, was it Fly Me to the Moon? When they were asking him questions about the work he was doing with the troops. So I think that's what the link is there. But
the general that gave him the men. Yeah.
Right. It would have been nice if he had said like that was what he could do instead of I can get us into mission control. The two didn't work together there.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, and I get it. You got to advance the plot, and I'm anticipating an action-packed episode number 9, obviously, because you got all these special agents with you.
Now, the thing go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just once again going.
I got a nitpick on that scene though. I don't know what special forces person would let someone get within their
that close to you without
stepping up first and then try to touch your face. That hand would have been snapped off before. It's like,
is it the red dress?
Yeah, okay.
At least if one guy got it, everybody else would be like, hey, you're not doing that nonsense to me, right?
I was like, you just totally gonna stand there and let her come up to you and then put her hand on your face and you're not even gonna say anything. Okay. I don't know.
If they're the ones that were being tested on by Soong, they're already screwed up. So,
and that's what Jamie's talking about. We didn't even connect the dots there because I'm like, why is this guy being like some sheep led to the slaughter? He's supposed to be the best of the best. But anyway, that's just my nitpick. I was just so done by the end of this thing. I didn't know what to do.
And I do like how we do get the full explanation of where Adam Soong fits into the future and why there were statues of him in the Confederation. So that was a good explanation there, but we went a long way to get that explanation.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think but it's interesting though. And I kind of make the connection of that. Basically, they're saying that if our world continues going the way it's going, we're going to turn to somebody like Adam Soong to save our ecosystem. And that's what makes him. That's basically what it's saying. It's Renee Picard going on her mission, discovering some sort of technology that changes humans' viewpoint of themselves and how they feel about each other. That is what causes the change to happen. It's just I did, that was a point that I kind of really kind of was awesome to me. It was a kind of a message that I saw in this episode.
We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Obviously, we just got back from Mission Chicago, and it was so nice to see Fansets once again in person and to see all the wonderful people that are part of Fansets, and the many wonderful customers that were surrounding their table. And why not? They offer so many great products. Not only do they offer Star Trek for us Star Trek fans, but they have something for every type of fandom, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, and even Rick and Morty.
Speaking of Mission Chicago, there were some new releases there that are available now on Fanset's website, and they are amazing. And Mike is pointing to them on his board as we speak. You can pick up all 3 of the special Mission Chicago pins. They come in 3 different sizes. One is just the logo for Mission Chicago. One has the background of the Chicago skyline. That's the one I picked up. And then there's an extra large one with the Enterprise D outline and glitter, as well as the Chicago skyline. So those were amazing. But also what was amazing was the new Master Ships collection release of the NCC 1701A. And it is an awesome pin. I got it, and it's on my shelf, and it looks amazing. It feels amazing. It's a amazingly high quality pin that can fold down and become a stand, and you see the Enterprise, or you can magnet and put it on a board with the dedication plaque. So there's plenty more at fansets.com, and all you need to do is go to fansets.com and put a whole bunch of pins in your cart, and we've just told you about a whole bunch of them already.
And as a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code TrekGeeks at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders of $30 or more.
Fansets, our pins have character. And we want to thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Now, the overall message of this episode, what it teaches us about ourselves, or potentially what is it trying to teach us? I'm going to go first because I typically like to do that, especially since I don't want to have a bad relationship with Jamie since I have to do other podcasts with him. So going along with relationships, I thought that this taught us a lot about the state of controlling relationships, and not like how you control your relationship, but being in a relationship that's controlled by somebody else. We see that Corey is completely controlled by Adam Soong, right to the point of without that magic smart water, she can't leave the house because she could die. And when she does finally get that and she's on her way out, Soong says, "You don't get to walk away from me. You don't exist without me." Talk about the definition of an abusive relationship right there, just putting her down right away. And I thought it was nice that the writers got her out of there because, she didn't ask for what she had gone through. So to let her out of that relationship, I think kind of goes along with the episode title of Mercy. They put some mercy upon Corey and let her go. I mentioned before that I thought that there was a way that Raffi gets tied to Adam Soong a little bit, and it's in this regard. Raffi likes to be in control of her relationships. She likes to be in control of her relationship with Seven, which kind of comes to the fore here, and she realizes that she is a manipulator. She was totally in control of her relationship with Elnor, to the point where he turned down being able to go back and assist the Qowat Milat, really just because of the love that he had for Raffi, and her making the comment, "Okay, you're just going to leave me. All right, I'll just deal with it. That's why he stuck around in Starfleet till graduation and ended up in the situation he's in. Now, the difference is Raffi realizes what she's been doing now. And she seems like the type of person who, once she understands something like that, is going to make a change. Soong, on the other hand, he ends up in the bottom of a bottle, but then he sees a new way to find success, and he's all about that. Like, where is Corey in his mind at the end of this episode? I don't think he cares anymore. So having those relationships, a controlling one, it doesn't benefit anyone. In this case, we see that there was no benefit to either Raffi or Adam Soong in how they controlled the relationships. But Raffi, it seems like, is going to have better ones going forward. Mike, I'll let you go next.
So I really loved what Q said in this episode. He said humans are all trapped in the past, and that's completely true. We all are our experiences of the past, and we get to see this from Picard's perspective. We get to see this from Agent Wells' perspective, and in fact, I would even venture to say that Q and Guinan are also somewhat trapped in the past for very different reasons, but
no pun intended.
No pun intended. So I think that this whole idea of trauma again continues to come up, and people dealing with their trauma and moving forward is something that we've just seen ongoing throughout this. And I think that ultimately what we need to do is we need to accept what's happened to us in the past and move forward and live in the present. And it also, for me, evokes this idea of hope, and that the future can continue to be different. It can continue to be better. It's not based upon our past, and I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of think through, like, how can I move through the past and have hope for the future? And again, I think that Picard once again provides hope to Wells in this case, as does Guinan, about his future, even though he's just lost his job. But I think having some closure to his childhood experience with the Vulcans and realizing that there are extraterrestrials is going to help him move forward in the future.
All right, Jamie.
Well, Mike did kind of steal a little bit of my thunder, but the two things that I know he's excited about that. So the two things that were said in this episode that really kind of resonated with me was obviously humans are stuck in the past, which Mike talked about, and then also it's the escape that counts, not the trap. So those were two kind of really, things that were really stuck out to me. But I go to this episode title of Mercy, and I know I had talked a little bit about in the previous segment, but there's a lot of examples of mercy in this episode. And when we see this topic of humans are stuck in the past, right, we talk about that, the trauma that Agent Wells experienced and how Picard is offering him mercy by releasing him from that trauma. We see Q in a similar scenario offering mercy to Corey by giving her the key, the solution to get out of, the situation that she's in. And we even see mercy displayed by Jurati, right? Subrina talked earlier about how she had Raffi being held up by her neck. She didn't kill her, right? She offered her mercy, even in that moment when she could have killed her, which means that Agnes is still a part of the Borg Queen. She's still fighting in that example there. Then when we see this whole thing about it's the escape that counts, not the trap. I really think this is tied into this whole future that we as humans are kind of seeing is going to take place if we let a guy like Adam Soong, take over, right? Are we going to be able to escape, his grasp or the things that he would do, right? I think that's kind of really explored here, and we kind of see that. That's why it's so important for Rene Picard to go on this mission, because if not, humans are so flawed and so messed up that we're gonna follow this madman into this dystopian future that we're gonna see. So, like I said, those two sentences really kind of resonated with me. Once again, humans are stuck in the past, and it's the escape that counts, not the trap.
And Subrina.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, everybody has really hit on what this whole season has been about, and it's been about dealing with, mental issues and being traumatized and dealing with it. But I think it's really interesting because we've seen this with a few of our captains, not just in this franchise. We've seen this with, Sisko having been traumatized by his wife's death. We saw this with Michael being traumatized as a young person. And Picard now, we know, has been a survivor the whole time. He was doing all the great things that he did. And I think it's really very interesting that we see Renee now, another one, although her issues are slightly different. I think what I like about this is that we're showing that people can reach very high pinnacles without even dealing with the trauma. This is how tough these people were, that even though Starfleet supposedly has all these psych exams and everything else to get into Starfleet, Academy, but you miss these traumas that these people had. Okay, I'll let that go. But so they managed to function even though they were this traumatized. And I like the fact that shows that people can make it through their lives dealing with the trauma. And finally, eventually, you have to face it and deal with it. But that doesn't mean that you can't do what you really want to do. And I thought it was very interesting that we saw three very powerful people in these shows, Burnham, Sisko, and now Picard, have some major issues that they had to deal with. And there were other people too. Worf was traumatized. They all were traumatized. But they managed to get the job done. And I think that's a very important statement, even though we are talking about now dealing with it, which is something that is very, 2020s, too. The other days, like, suck it up and deal with it is where we were back in the day. Now we're dealing with it. So that's very interesting. So I did like that whole, I like it. I don't want to make light of how long it's taking and, this and that, because they're talking about some very important topics. And I like that they are bringing these topics up. So I don't want to make light of the fact that maybe it's taking a little longer to get to the point than I would like. So I like the show. I like what's going on. I like these topics, and I'm glad they're talking about it, because we don't need to suck it up like we have in these past captains' lives. We do need to address it.
Starfleet Command is proud to present you the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor.
We still have awards to do. Well, we'll let Jamie go first, since he's been bringing up the rear in this episode a lot.
Well, for awards, I'm going to go with our girl Ito. I mean, I think she's just, echoing everybody's point. I think she's firing all cylinders, and I'm going to go as far as to say John Delancey. I want more John Delancey in these episodes. He is really showing himself as an actor that, even though he's been out of the game for a long time, can get right back into it, and like riding a bicycle. And I just feel like the writers and the showrunners are doing the show a disservice by not showing us more John Delancey. So those are going to be my two awards for the week: John Delancey and Ito.
What about John Delancey's FBI jacket? Does that get an award?
I was going to continue on my theme of crazy awards, but I'm trying to bring it back to,
you got to throw one in there. It's just, it's now
that was
now
highly
I think you
comical.
I think you got to throw one in.
Oh, now you're going to make me think. Come back to me. And I'll get it on the rear.
All right, Subrina, what do you have for awards?
Yeah, well, of course, Ito, she's my girl. I loved her. I want more of her. I don't know what you got to do, Paramount Plus, to find a way to bring this actress back into this family. I want more of that. And I love the shoes. I mean, that's the other one. I want those camel boots so badly. And I really, as much as I was talking about the scenes with Seven and Raffi, I just love watching the two of those actresses. I really do. No matter what craziness they're making them say, I just, I was not ever really a huge 7 of 9 fan. I just really was not. But I love Seven in this franchise. I really do. And I love her. I want more of their relationship. So I'll go read the audiobook. I'll listen to it and see what the hell happened. But I want more of that. Those are my awards.
It's 90 minutes, and the two of them are awesome in it because it's actually Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd playing the parts in the audiobook.
Okay.
So, Mike?
So I want to give I had Ito and John on my list, but Jamie did a Jamie, so it's all good there. We're one for one now, but I'm gonna go with Brent Spiner this week. I thought that his acting is just top notch and phenomenal. The encounter with Corey and everything that happened through that whole scene was just real. Like I was just fixated on watching his face on the screen, and it was amazing. So he did a great job. And then I have to say that Alison Pill also crushed it as well this week. I think that, to play two characters in one or three, Borg Queen, Jurati, and Jurati Borg Queen, I guess, is just phenomenal. When she's talking to herself, when she's talking to anybody, it's just powerful. And, and like I said, I was not the biggest fan of Alison Pill in season 1, but she is just crushing it this season. And so definitely a huge shout out to her. And then finally, I just want to give the writers a shout out because I really did enjoy this episode. Kristen Beyer and Cindy Appel did a great job with this. And to me, it felt very well plotted out. And I thought that the dialogue in almost all of it was really spot on. Huge shout outs to like the Q and Guinan scene for sure. The Raffi and Seven dynamic, and even just Alison. Anything you're giving Alison Pill, she's just crushing it. So great job to them.
Yeah, I had John Delancey on my list and Ito as well. And can I say, I think one of the things that we haven't quite touched on about how the Guinan character has been played in this, especially this episode, is they've really emphasized her as a listener and the things that she's able to pick up on just by reading a person. I think that's been really cool. We did kind of get that in The Next Generation, but at that point she was an old soul and you just kind of expected it from her. The way Ito is playing it is as a far younger Guinan, and you can almost like see the work that she's doing on her face as she's listening and reading the person as to how she's getting the information that she wants to throw out there. So, those two obviously were what Mike and Jamie had. Last week, I gave these two an honorable mention because I couldn't fit them in my awards, but they make it in this week. Sol Rodriguez and Santiago Cabrera as a pair playing off of each other in this episode. Subrina, I have to 100% agree with you on the point of them communicating in Spanish back and forth together. I thought that was a fantastic decision that was made to allow them to express themselves to each other in their native language. Why should they put it in English for all of us to hear what they're saying and understand it when they can very easily be more expressive in the language that I don't know if that is what their first language is for the two actors, but it kind of felt that way, the way that they were acting within that. And I'm so used to reading subtitles at the bottom of the screen because my ears are crappy that whatever, I'm good with them saying another language and me having to read what's there. I don't lose anything because of it. So great chemistry between the two of them. And now for our crazy award of the week, I give you Mr. Jamie Rogers.
All right. So for my third award this week, I'm going to give it to the car batteries. Their chemistry with Allison Pill was a real positive influence on the Borg Queen. That's all I got.
Bravo.
We're all laughing off mic. We're all muted and we're cracking up on the car batteries.
I don't know.
That is amazing.
All
wow,
I could
Jamie. Wow.
All I could see in that whole thing as Jamie was trying to tell that joke was this. Guy walks into the doctor's office.
I was trying to do the positive influence in air quotes.
Oh,
so
I know.
I apologize.
I got it.
The gesture.
Oh, I got it.
Great job. Great job.
Trust me, I got it.
Doctor says we'll love you.
The doctor says you're ugly too, but boom.
Boom.
Library computer, data being received.
Oh, and as if having the silly, crazy award isn't fun enough, now we get to go to something that is surely going to wreak havoc on people's lives, and that is the prediction section. And I don't know who to draw from first this week because I know there's a sibling rivalry going on in the house here. So you know what? I'm gonna go first so as to put the issues to bed. My prediction: Adam Soong has to die. He has to die. And you wonder, how is the line going to be carried on? It's going to be Corey Soong. She is going to be the Soong legacy bearer. She talked a lot about how he's not looking at her as a daughter, but as an experiment, a successful experiment, and a way to carry on his legacy. Well, she's going to end up doing that because I think Adam's going to die, and she's going to be the one that actually passes on a not so aggressive mad scientist vibe to the rest of the Soong family.
I like it.
All right. Well, since you're unmuted, I'm going to let you go next, Subrina.
Okay. This is such crazy chaos in this thing that I don't know what you could say for a prediction. But here's my crazy Subrina prediction is that I think Renee, whatever Renee finds on Titan, because in the beginning they said that she had discovered some organism or something, whatever, on Titan. I think that when we went back in, the best of both worlds and Q showed Picard the goo that we came from, and the thing that Q had where he said this was how, Corey was formed, I think all three of those things have something to do with each other. That's my prediction.
Holy crap.
Goo, goo, and more goo.
Holy goo. Holy goo, Batman.
Wow, that's a good one. I mean, both of yours have been good. That's amazing.
All right. I'm sorry, Mike. I let you go before Jamie last week, so I've got to be nice and let Jamie go first this week. So go ahead. Take it away, Jamie.
I'm going to leave a lot of meat on the bone, so I don't think I'm going to trump him this time. But so my three predictions are, I think Seven will never get back her Borg components. I think that the history is going to be changed, but the history is going to be fixed, but she's never going to get back her Borg components. So that's number one. Number two, I do think Jurati is going to get the ship, take the ship back. I'm doubling down on that. I think I had mentioned that last week. I think that ship is going to be the La Sirena from the alternate timeline, is going to be the Borg ship in the future. That's all Borgified and, is the ship that we saw in episode 1. And this element of Corey now is going to be part of my third prediction. I think Corey is going to be the key to helping to stop Adam Soong and help get the rest of the crew back. Because I feel like they're going to be in a situation where Jurati takes the ship and they're going to be trying to figure out how to get back home. And I think she's going to be the key linchpin to help them either stop Adam Soong or get the rest of the crew back to the regular timeline.
Mike, I don't know how he's able to say with a straight face that he's leaving meat on the bone when he takes 3 predictions. I mean, geez.
Really? I just said goo 3 times. You just go all over the place.
Okay, Mike.
Well, I mean,
bring to the table?
all right. So your number 3 was part of one of mine, but that's okay. I'm gonna. There's a lot of good Corey and Soong possibilities here, so I'm gonna let those sit. My predictions are, number 1, that Q is actually human now, and part of the whole thing about it's not about the trap, it's about the escape, is that he is somehow going to convince, or part of all of this is that he's convincing Picard to take him back to the future with them. So there's no way for him to get out of this, and that the next mission will be helping Q get his powers back or something along that lines. But I'm going to take it even a step further. I'm going to say that Rios is going to stay in the past because Q is going to the future with them. And I'm going to do this because it's a twofold thing. It's not going to, it doesn't make complete sense, but there's going to be some rule that they can't take more people back to the future than they brought from the future. I know that doesn't make sense in canon, a la Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, but it does make sense because of balance, like the balance of the universe. So I think that's why Rios is actually going to end up staying, because Q is going to take his place. And I still feel like, there's too many butterflies floating around. I think that the future is going to be different somehow. And Picard is going to gather the original crew of the NCC 1701D, and they're going to have to fix the future as well as figure out how to help Q, or Q is going to become part of the crew as well.
What? Oh my God.
Well, if you remember in Deja Q, he wanted to be a member of the crew.
Yeah,
well, maybe he's going to replace Data since Data's dead.
No, Data is coming back to life. Remember my prediction last week? He's coming back.
I think they're going to San Francisco and they're going to find Data's head in that cave.
Yeah.
And Data's head is what's going to get him back to the future. And then Data can be alive.
I hope I got another that I just made up. I'm just coming to this prediction. I am hoping that in season 3 we see the much ballyhooed meeting of Picard and Guinan. They went back to
the original.
Now they're back here. Like, when did they actually really meet in the regular timeline?
Ooh,
so I would like to see that in season 3. I predict that we will, with Whoopi playing the part.
Nice.
Oh, with Whoopi. I was going to say with Ito playing the part, but
yeah, I think they're going to
for their first meeting. But we'll see.
Yeah,
that's good.
You can do some little stuff with the cameras and make everybody look young again.
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, we managed to thrill and impress probably just ourselves with our predictions for the future.
Goo and more goo.
So what will next week bring us? This is no prediction. Picard and his crew fight for their lives as they come under attack from a new incarnation of an old enemy. But to survive, Picard must face the ghosts of his past. Seven and Raffi have a final showdown with Jurati. Episode 9 is entitled Hide and Seek, and we'll be covering it here for you on Discovering Trek Picard.
Don't forget that you can support Discovering Trek and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by subscribing to bonus content on Patreon. Get access to unedited audio of all our podcasts and a whole lot of other perks. If you'd like to support this and the other member podcasts of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, beam on over to patreon.com/trekgeeks, where subscriptions start as low as $2 a month.
For more great Star Trek discussion, check out the aforementioned member podcasts on the network. In addition to Discovering Trek, there is Trek Geeks, Rewind, Politrek's 5-Year Mission, a big show called Deep Space Pride, Drawn to Trek, Infinite Trek, The Divine Treasury, the coolest sisters on the planet, the Sci-Fi Sisters, Science Station 2 with the First Link, and the newest addition to the network, Con Pod, which is all about Star Trek conventions. You can find all these shows and where to listen on trekgeeks.com/listen or by downloading the Trek Geeks mobile app.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do.
And no one does ad-libs like Jamie Rogers. So Assimilated Special Forces are headed after the crew with Agnes. This is either going to be incredibly awesome or very anticlimactic. Either way, we'll be discussing it here next week on Discovering Trek, so make sure you strap in. To close, I found a quote from Picard in talking to Soji last season that I thought would be something he could have said to Wells this week. You have a past. You have a story just waiting to be claimed. And until next time, never stop discovering.
Music for Discovering Trek is provided by 5-Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. Discovering Trek is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.